Alright. Settle down, everybody, because this video is all about self-reflection. So quite recently, I decided to do a live stream of looking back at some older Channel Pup videos. Ones that helped to bolster up the channel's popularity, videos that I no longer really agree with. And while I was doing this live stream, it served as kind of a wake-up call for me. To those of you that use Facebook and such, do you ever look back on your old posts? Maybe Facebook's oh, on this day 3 years ago, shows a post and you think, my god, what was I doing? At least I finally got it right this time. I seem to be a much better person now than I was yesterday. And then 3 years on from you saying that, you look back on what you said at that point and you're like, oh my god, what was I doing? The short version, if you want to know what I think of my old content, I think it is unwatchable, pretentious, pseudo-intellectual garbage. And if I were to watch old Channel Pup purely as a new viewer, I would think, this guy's a prick. Now, you might be thinking I'm being a little too hard on myself, but I'm going to give an example in this video of when I was at my absolute worst, and you'll probably find yourself actually agreeing with what I'm saying here. And also, I do want to put forward that I actually quite like the content that I make nowadays. I think things really started to turn around and improve in 2020. So in this video, we'll be looking at when I feel my content was at its absolute worst. This is the dark age of Channel Pup.
Now, hold your horses there, sir. If you like videos about Spider-Man and Sonic the Hedgehog and other pop culture foibles, be sure to hit the subscribe button and hit the like button to help get more content like this in the algorithm. That YouTube algorithm is a merciless mistress, and if you want to help to support the production of these videos, be sure to check out the Patreon link in the description below and consider making a monthly pledge. Enjoy the rest of the video, partner.
2019, the last relatively normal year, before the world turned into whatever the hell it is today. Seriously, what the hell happened? And for me, 2019 was a year of considerable growth. With this channel, Channel Pup, yep, just wanted to stress that, amassing 24.2k new subscribers and 4.8 million views across the channel, making 2019 the second biggest year this channel has ever had. I got incredibly lucky in 2019. So, what was this influx of new viewership greeted to? After Gotham ended with its 5th season, the two main subjects on this channel became Doctor Who and Spider-Man. Doctor Who having just finished its 1st season of the polarizing Jodie Whittaker-Chris Chibnall era, and with Spider-Man Far From Home on the horizon. Now, once I had watched that 11th season of Doctor Who, or well, some of it anyway, I definitely didn't finish it, I was left feeling pretty apathetic about the state of the show. But I definitely wasn't sure what it was that wasn't clicking for me about that new season. Something about it was just rubbing me up the wrong way. I felt incredibly disconnected from it. I'd had some conversations with friends about it, and friends that actually liked this run of the show, and they didn't really seem to know what I was talking about when I said I wasn't enjoying it. And the truth be told, I couldn't really figure out what it was that I didn't like, and I guess I was looking for objective factors, reasons as to why it could be objectively of a lower quality. So I went online to see what other people were saying about it, more critiques, more critical stuff, and I came across channels like Nerdrotic and similar channels to Nerdrotic. And in these reviews, lambasting of the show's, I suppose, identity politics was at the forefront. So I began to kind of look for instances of that. And so while in actuality I was just kind of bored with the show, in a bid to kind of back up my points on some form of, at that time I guess I was trying to convince myself, objective basis, while to a much lesser extent I would start somewhat parroting the anti-SJW rhetoric of these fandom menace style channels. And that is in many ways kind of how things begin when it comes to the sort of fandom menace anti-SJW style of YouTube. I think these are some of the worst kinds of YouTube videos that you can come across because it's effectively right-wing political propaganda masquerading around as film and TV reviews, as pop culture stuff, as entertainment. When people are not really able to think think critically or they don't have that analytical streak in them, they can find these videos that seem to be validating their opinion and do offer an objective reasoning for it, all the while they're being spoon-fed some pretty nasty stuff. And if you've ever seen the alt-right playbook, this is kind of a thing that happens. It's kind of how the alt-right do groom new people into the alt-right, is kind of by using like media forums and stuff, validating people, offering a seemingly objective basis for those views surrounded by quote-unquote facts and logic, and I have to say, it got me too. The video is not up anymore, but there was one video where I actually unironically said, this is a quote from me, "Get woke, go broke." And I was talking about this in reference to Doctor Who. Now, am I gonna say that all these fandom menace YouTubers are alt-right groomers? No, I'm not going to say that explicitly or definitely or definitively, but I can definitely see parallels. So let's move on over to the next chapter, the Spider-Man chapter. Spider-Man Far From Home releases in theaters, and I loved it. And I still love it. My opinions on Spider-Man Far From Home haven't really changed much. I still think it's a fantastic film. I still absolutely adore that movie. So what's really the issue here? Enter High Top Films. High Top Films specializes in video essays. It's very thoughtful. It's very analytical. He takes a good little peek behind the scenes. He talks about the directors of these films and their influences over that. And it's clear that the guy has a very strong emotional connection with the media that he watches. Now, he has a perfectly valid opinion and perfectly valid points towards Spider-Man Homecoming when he says it's a good movie, it's just not a good Spider-Man movie, and it was because he felt that Peter Parker wasn't really relatable enough. He didn't have relatable problems in that film. He felt that Uncle Ben's legacy was kind of drowned out. It didn't really line up with what he wanted from a Spider-Man film. It was a bit more fantasy than he really wanted, and completely fair enough. I'm not going to try and dispute that on any objective basis. I do disagree, and I do think there are definitely points that can be made against it, but at the same time, it's completely fair game. It's his opinion. But then Spider-Man Far From Home comes out, and he releases the controversial Spider-Man Far From Home Broke Me. Now, this was quite an uncharacteristic video for High Top Films in that rather than really analyzing this one and analyzing the director's intentions and really looking deeper into the themes, it almost kind of denies the existence of those themes. The actual critiquing takes a backseat in this one in favor of more of an emotionally fueled rant, and it's quite clear that he felt very strongly about this. So I decided I wanted to offer an opposing viewpoint to that. So I made a video asking, is High Top Films fair on Spider-Man Far From Home, fair on the MCU Spider-Man? And it was kind of just a series of disputing certain points, making cases against those points, but I did try and keep things quite cordial and quite respectful. Now, that's kind of all well and good if you're trying to kind of get that conversation up. At the same time, I do feel quite a bit of guilt because this was a point where my channel was really growing, and I feel like a lot of that piggybacked off of kind of just slagging off High Top Films. At the same time, though, like, the video was completely intended to be just a pleasant, a perfectly cordial discussion. High Top Films never really responded to me on that matter, but it did get people talking at the very least. But then there's the point where I came completely unstuck. I did a retrospective series on the Spider-Man films shortly after the release of Spider-Man Far From Home. Now, if you want to critique someone else's videos on movies, you gotta get yours right. And I didn't, because I didn't really watch the movies before making these critiques. So I'd watched them, but they weren't exactly fresh in my head for the most part. So for example, my retrospective video on Spider-Man 3 at that time was very negative. It was incredibly surface level as well. After rewatching it like a year later, I absolutely fell in love with Spider-Man 3, and I made a video all about how I'd fallen in love with Spider-Man 3. That's the one you should check out. But here's the worst part. This was the video that was a wake-up call for me when I was rewatching old videos on that live stream. The Amazing Spider-Man review. The Amazing Spider-Man, thoroughly un-Spider-Man, just isn't Spider-Man, I said. So, I criticized High Top Films for making a very emotionally driven rant about Spider-Man Far From Home. while I would then go on to make an extremely emotional-driven rant on The Amazing Spider-Man. A rant that is full of just pure resentment, bile, and projection. Willful ignorance, just missing the point for the sake of making criticism. Anything and everything that could be ridiculed about High Top Films' video on Spider-Man Far From Home was turned up to 100 on my Amazing Spider-Man video. I wasn't willing to just say, oh, I didn't like this one, or oh, it didn't really work for me. No. I had to have receipts. Receipts that were thoroughly out of context. I held this film to an entirely different standard to what I held the MCU and Sam Raimi Spider-Man films. I basically took every instance of Peter Parker doing something that I wouldn't do, something that I found to be a little immoral, and completely shredded it. Treated all of that as the defining factor of this movie, with me saying, oh, I would never do stuff like that. And then we get dangerously close to sort of incel nice guy rhetoric when I say, is Peter punished for his less responsible, more destructive actions in this film? No, he gets Gwen Stacy, which is skirting so dangerously close to the whole, it's always the assholes that get the girlfriend, the nice guy doesn't get a girlfriend. I just want to state, at the time I made this video, I was in a relationship. So there's really no excuse.
We have this very unlikable guy that this film frames as our protagonist. He doesn't get punished for his wrongdoings, he just gets Gwen Stacy.
And the worst part is, after bringing all of those completely out of context receipts, after making all of these definitive points, I then had the gall to be like, but if you like the movie, that's fine, I respect that. And the reality is, it was so evident that there was a bitter person there, angry at the film, angry at the world, who was taking that anger out on this film. And there was someone there that wanted to be cordial, in that he knew that the right thing to do was to be respectful towards others, but completely failed at it. And I think in many ways it was also kind of a reaction to the sort of growing resentment of the MCU Spider-Man as well, an overcorrection, if you will. But the point is, I was just parroting a lot of the negative rhetoric surrounding this film, but completely out of context, in a very disrespectful way. And then, I had the audacity to call out YouTuber Karsten Runquist for his video, Don't Watch the Lion King remake, saying, don't tell people what to and what not to watch, they should think for themselves. Me, who is parroting criticisms out of context, is telling people to think for themselves. It is actually unreal. It is beyond the point of parody. So what changed? Well, for one, I kind of learned to listen a little more. Talk less, listen more. I stopped making daily uploads. I tried to start sort of nuancing my points a little better. I kind of realized that any idiot can tear a film apart just for things that look like little errors or things that don't look good on a surface level. But it's more important to receive a film on its own terms. Look at the kind of thematic cohesion. How does that come together? Because otherwise you're just cinema sins but angry. This also coincides with my time when I started going to university and I met all different people from all different walks of life, which kind of taught me that, you know, there is a genuinely harmful rhetoric behind the whole get woke, go broke narrative. It taught me the importance of representation in media. Not only that though, but as I started studying film and making more films of my own, such as The Marvelous Tales of Spider-Man, a film that really leaves a lot to be desired, I realized that making films is really, really difficult. And that perspective completely changed the way I approach film criticism. There were also fans of the Amazing Spider-Man films that reached out to me and talked to me about that review in a really nice, kind manner. One of which being my friend JP Money 1999, who absolutely loved The Amazing Spider-Man 1 and wanted me to, he didn't necessarily need me to like it, but wanted me to at least understand why he liked it as much as he did. Also, I'm just gonna say this, I think the Spider-Man fan base for the most part is pure trash, but as a subsection, Amazing Spider-Man fans are some of the nicest people in the world. Also, these fandom menace channels, I get the sense you're not supposed to watch more than just a handful of videos because, yeah, they really start to become incredibly mask off the more you watch them. One video in and you're like, oh yeah, that's just the cold hard reality, life isn't fair. But several videos later and you've got all of the pieces of the great replacement theory puzzle. Now, there were definitely some overcorrections. A point where I really wanted to renounce the whole anti-woke narrative. So I decided to make a video on the YouTuber Bolstrek. And while there were some examples given of how his sort of rhetoric can be harmful, I didn't really analyze it in the bigger picture, and it ultimately just kind of divulged into schoolyard-style insults, before becoming a flaming row on Twitter, etc, etc. Now, did Bolstrek's content deserve the ridicule? I still stand by absolutely it deserved ridicule. Did I approach that matter correctly? Absolutely not. And then as the year started to draw to a close, don't get me started on the whole freaking Joker fiasco, where I aired my disappointment of the film, got some backlash, and then just went into complete panic mode, uploading different videos, kind of walking it back, saying that that review almost destroyed the channel. I rewatched the film like a couple of weeks ago, and I actually really liked it. I think I just had my expectations perhaps just a bit too high. But even then, going into panic mode over that, come on. I'm not gonna beat myself up. At the end of the day, I was a very inexperienced YouTuber. And there's probably going to be a time in the next 5 years or so when I look back on the me of today and say, God, that guy sucked. I have made more mistakes since, such as, for example, that time when like the views were getting low and I decided I would attempt to turn this into a fully devoted gaming channel. And there will be times when I miss the mark. There are just some cases where you don't know you've made a mistake until you've already made it. But I guess I just wanted to take this chance to kind of reflect on myself a little bit. I have also since privated those videos. I know that there's going to be some of you that say, but this could be a chance for us to kind of look back on those and see, you know, where you're at today. It's like a reference point. Or maybe you just enjoyed them on an entertainment basis, but I'm kind of putting my foot down here. And it's for more reasons than one. I don't want people looking at those videos and using them to validate their own thoughts. I do not want to become a part of that sort of right-wing propaganda end of YouTube that just validates people's opinions for all the wrong reasons, no matter how much lighter my versions were than some of the versions I've talked about. Also, YouTube's algorithm works in mysterious ways. It could be that one day, one of those really old, terrible videos gets picked up in the algorithm again, and it attracts all these new people to my channel and think that's what my content is like, and that's who I am. It's not. Also, I'm just embarrassed about it. You know, that's just the bottom line. My Amazing Spider-Man retrospective video was viewed by over 30,000 people. What a large amount of people to just make yourself look like a complete idiot in front of. I also wanted to say, like, there's a lot of YouTubers that have been mentioned in this, like High Top Films for one example. I think he's a great YouTuber. I think he's very good at emotionally engaging his audience. He's got a really nice sort of cosmopolitan feel to his videos. I think he's great. Carsten Runquist as well. Carsten Runquist actually saw the video that I did on them, and they were really gracious about it. And then when it comes to like Bolstrek and Nerdronic and everyone in their ilk, just take it for what it is. It's just my perspective. Everything can be subject to scrutiny, and that's just one of the cold hard facts of life. Just as I'm here scrutinizing myself. Whew, okay, it's a new day. It feels kind of good to get that off my chest. I fear that like the whole context of things has kind of hurt my content. I feel like even when my content improved in like 2020, it was constantly overshadowed by that 2019 stuff. Now that I feel like I finally publicly, you know, denounced that crap, I feel like I can finally move forward. Great. Okay, good. Thank you for watching. Roll the outro. I say, you've made it to the end of the video! Congrats. No, but seriously, thanks a bunch for watching. And just now, I'll be extending a special thanks to the patrons in the $10 tier, who are the amazing Adam Myers, the courageous Ken K, the legendary Ray Ray, the magnificent Mr. SP, and the super Sergio. What an amazing and generous bunch of people. Thank you guys so much for your support. And if you want to join the ranks of these amazing people right here, the link to my Patreon is in the description below. Guys, these are not the easiest times in the world financially, so every little bit you folks are donating is doing wonders. I really would love to be able to do YouTube as a proper fully fledged career someday. It might just be a pipe dream, but maybe you guys can prove some people wrong. But of course, if donations aren't your thing, then, well, it means plenty to me that you just hit that cute little subscribe button over there. I didn't mean hit that way. Well, that's me done for today. Thanks a whole bunch for your support, and have a fantastic day. I'm gonna see you so soon.